Good evening and welcome to 2020. Well, it is a diet revolution. All these years you've been doing what you were told, eating healthy by cutting down on fat and enjoying your pasta. And now suddenly the tables are turning. What you've been spoon-fed since you were little may turn out to be what some call a big fat lie. John, everyone is talking about this story.
They certainly have been. And that's understandable because millions of us have grown up and grown out dutifully following the government's dietary guidelines. But there's new evidence that the food pyramid is built on shaky science. As Dr. Timothy Johnson reports, we may finally have an answer to why we may be eating less fat and still getting fatter.
In the fight against fat, 46-year-old Noreen Hunter is a battle-scarred veteran. For most of her life, she has struggled to lose weight with one low-fat diet after another. She did lose weight, but she always gained it back. In the past year alone, she has regained 50 pounds. No wonder she's thrown in the towel and is now trying a diet that seems sinful. It's high in fat and low in carbohydrates. To do this, she's had to get over years of preaching that says fat is bad.
I can't eat that fat. If I eat that fat, I'm going to get fatter. I'm already fat. You have to deprogram yourself to thinking in a different way that maybe something else is going to work.
It's even tough to go shopping for all the fats recommended on Noreen's extreme diet.
I go to the grocery store the other day. It was outrageous. I think I had a pound of butter, 2 heavy creams, a pound of sausages, cheese.
So people are probably looking at you and saying, no wonder she's got
No
a little
wonder she's
extra weight.
obese.
Not
Look at
realizing you're actually out trying to do your diet.
I'm doing my diet.
For the past 30 years, many Americans have been religiously following low-fat diets. But as a nation, we've actually been getting fatter. So experts are finally asking, do low-fat diets really work? In a stunningly provocative New York Times Magazine article, science writer Gary Taubes attacks what he considers the bad science that's lured millions to low-fat diets. He asks, what if fat doesn't make you fat? What if it's all a big fat lie?
What we believe to be true with such certainty could just be a sort of mass delusion, wishful thinking that the medical establishment inflicted on us, and it just snowballed.
And you won't believe who pushed the government's initial decision 30 years ago to promote low-fat diets. They weren't doctors, and they weren't scientists. They were lawyers who worked for Senator George McGovern in the mid-1970s.
Young lawyers in their 30s, early 30s, decided that they would put together what they called the Dietary Goals for Americans. And the next thing you know, they come out with this document, and it just sets this ball rolling, where finally some government body is telling Americans to eat less fat and eat more carbohydrates.
The theory was that a low-fat, high-carb diet would help control weight and prevent killer diseases. Unfortunately, most of the studies that followed did not show a direct link between fat in the diet and heart disease or cancer. But by that time, it was too late. Not even science could prevent the prevailing wisdom that fats were bad and carbs were good. Do you think that the scientists involved knew that this was shaky, or were they true believers in what they were doing?
They were true believers. They just believed that they knew the answer. And if the studies didn't find the answer that they knew was true, that meant the study was flawed. It was classic bad science.
Nonetheless, by the early 1990s, with the release of the government's food pyramid, it was official. The low-fat, high-carb diet was America's food plan. At the broad base are the foods considered the staple of the healthy low-fat diet: refined carbohydrates such as bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, 6 to 11 servings a day. At the narrow top, to be used sparingly, if at all, fats and oils. There were, however, some lonely voices of opposition. Dr. Robert Atkins, for one, said the government had it all wrong.
Here was Atkins in '72 selling millions of copies of this book, saying eat as much fat as you want, and it's the refined carbohydrates, the sugar and the flour, and it's the starches, which we're now being told to eat 6 to 11 times a day, that are going to kill you.
Dr. Atkins was widely regarded as a medical heretic, but some leading nutritional scientists have begun to think he got at least part of it right.
The dietary pyramid was out of date the day it was printed, but it's even more out of date given the evidence that's accrued since that time.
Dr. Walter Willett, chairman of the Department of Nutrition at the Harvard School of Public Health, says following the low-fat, high-carb diet of the food pyramid can make it difficult to control weight. It could even be dangerous for some people.
We have good evidence now that that high intake of refined starches and sugars will increase risk of diabetes and heart disease. So let's see, lab.
The Harvard studies have produced some of the most important research ever done on diet and health. They have amassed 20 years of data on nearly 300,000 people. Here's some practical advice based on their research. Reduce bad fats, especially the saturated animal fats found in marbled meat and full-fat dairy products, and the trans fatty acids found in many processed foods, like some margarines and store-bought cookies, crackers, and cakes. Eat more good fats, like liquid oils from plants and seeds, like olive, canola, sesame, and flaxseed oil. Another good source are fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring. Reduce refined carbohydrates, the sugary foods and starches like pasta, white bread, white rice, and potatoes. Eat more good carbohydrates, the fruits and vegetables and whole grains that are rich in fiber and nutrients.
Here's another payoff from a good fat, good carb diet. Not only is it likely to be more healthy, it may help some people control their weight. One reason is that when you eat refined sugars and starches, they are digested quickly. That leads to higher blood sugar levels. That in turn leads to more insulin. The insulin acts to lower the blood sugar levels. That makes you hungry and want to eat more. It's a vicious cycle.
That's why many experts now believe that a diet high in refined carbs actually increases the craving for food in people who are obese.
These people are actually hungrier than the rest of us, and they're hungrier because of the way they metabolize carbohydrates.
Terry Hill has used the website iVillage for information on diets. 5 years ago, she weighed more than 200 pounds. Success for her finally came with the Zone diet, with its balance of good carbs, good fats, and lean protein.
This worked better than any of the other diets that I had tried. And I've been eating this balance now for 4.5 years. I lost 90 pounds.
Jessie Klein eats lots of fish, vegetables, and fruit. She went from a size 12 to a size 2 over the course of a summer.
You also feel so much better, you have so much more energy. You know, I just felt like really happy and excited and enthusiastic about life.
The good fat, good carb diet now needs to be tested in long-term studies. Gary Taub says it's time for good science to finally give us some good answers.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I will probably stay on a low carbohydrate diet in the meanwhile.
I could cry. No more spaghetti, no more cookies, no more chocolate cake.
You could cry. I want to strangle my doctor. For years he's been telling me, eat pasta and salad and go running every day. I feel like I've been running in a circle now.
But you know, the Dr. Atkins diet, although you do lose weight, is a very extreme diet. It's certainly in the beginning. I mean, you gotta eat fat and you only protein and very little vegetables and no fruit. So, you know, there's got to be some moderation.
I guess, but I mean, this is so full of surprises. They have this Duke University study that says 80% of the people in their study on the Atkins program lost 20 pounds. And the things you would think, that their cholesterol would skyrocket, that they would have other associated problems, didn't happen. In fact, some of the levels improved.
And Dr. Atkins has been vilified for years. Well, it looks like he's going to have the last word.
Well, this thing says he's more right than wrong.
Well, look, if you have questions, and you may, about the best way to eat, there's lots of good information on our website. And Dr. Tim will also be taking questions live online. So log on to abcnews.com for all the details.
And while you're there, you can check out Dr. Tim's new book, An On-Call Guide to Men's Health, Everything Men Need to Know About Taking Care of Their Bodies.